Well, it's an honor again to bring in Chris Wallace, the anchor and host, of course, of Fox News Sunday, because once again, he's the man of the hour. That third presidential debate, Chris, it just keeps living on, because remember when you, of course, asked that question of Donald Trump about whether or not he would eventually concede if he lost the election, now it seems like the shoe's on the other foot for Hillary Clinton.
Well, it's quite astonishing, because you got to remember at that point he was kind of waffling on that issue as to whether or not he would accept the results of the election. And then Mike Pence and his own daughter Ivanka Trump both said, of course he would. And I asked him the question at the election because he hadn't said it. And he said, I'll keep you in suspense, famously. And Hillary Clinton attacked him and said, well, that's just horrifying. That isn't the way our democracy works. And now here we are with how many days, I'm sure you figured it out, since the election, but almost close to a month. And her campaign, her top campaign lawyer says they will join and participate in the Jill Stein initiated recount in Wisconsin, and if they can make it happen also in Michigan and Pennsylvania. So, yeah, the shoe is on the other foot indeed.
Absolutely. Well, just 15 minutes ago, the new president-elect tweeted a response to this. He said, and I quote, Hillary Clinton conceded the election when she called me just prior to the victory speech, and after the results were in, nothing will change. A lot of speculation about why Jill Stein is doing this. Does she think she can change something for real? Is she raising money for the Green Party? What is she doing?
I think she's trying to raise money for herself and keep, here's the thing. In the state of Wisconsin, it looks like she will be the difference between Hillary Clinton winning and losing, that Trump's vote margin is less than the number of votes that Jill Stein got. So on the one hand, she keeps Hillary Clinton from winning Wisconsin, and now she wants to raise money and push her own profile. And she has raised a lot of money, north of $5 million, apparently going to $7 million for this effort. So, I mean, it is kind of a study in hypocrisy on her part. If she cared all that much about Hillary Clinton winning, maybe she shouldn't have run in the first place. But it's very interesting that the Clinton camp would decide to join in this. Now, they say, well, we're just on the sidelines. We want to make sure the recount is accurate. But it is odd, and as I say, completely contradictory from what she said in that third debate. And there's no indication whatsoever that a recount is going to change this. Recounts make a difference when you're talking about 1,000 votes. But, we're talking here in the case of Pennsylvania about, I think it's 70,000 votes. And in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin, north of 20,000. So I don't see how this changes the election results at all.
All right, and Chris, tomorrow's going to be a busy day for the president-elect. He's going to be meeting with more potential picks during the Trump transition. Some new names have been added to the list of contenders for Secretary of State. For so long, this has been Mitt Romney, Rudy Giuliani, but now are there some third options being discussed?
Well, that's right. And some of them are generals. You see them up there, David Petraeus, John Kelly. I have to say that he needs to settle this, because this has become kind of ugly. I mean, when you have Kellyanne Conway, who was his campaign manager, is a Trump transition advisor, and she is tweeting out criticism of Mitt Romney, or saying, not her direct criticism, but saying, I'm being deluged with people who are upset about the choice of Romney. I mean, this needs to be settled. He needs to decide who it is. And move on. Particularly when you're talking about the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense, you would think he would want to lock those up sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Chris,
and in terms of the generals, let me just say, it is, some would argue, a little bit troubling, the possibility that you could have the National Security Advisor, who's already been named Mike Flynn, the Defense Secretary, and at this point we think General James Mad Dog Mattis is the leading contender, and either Petraeus or somebody else, former general for Secretary of State, to have three retired generals as all three national security slots would be a little curious.
Yeah, and Chris, we only have about 30 seconds, but you've got Reince Priebus, obviously the incoming White House Chief of Staff today, and one of the questions out there, of course, is will Mitt Romney have to apologize or do something? A lot of conservatives not happy that he may be the Secretary of State.
Have you been looking at my questions?
No!
But obviously, that is one of the key questions. We also want to ask him, because nobody from the Trump transition has gone on the record on camera and talked about this whole question of what they're going to do with Cuba. Trump, during the campaign, talked about trying to roll back the new relations that Obama set. We'll see whether they're going to follow through on that.
All right.
Have a good show, Chris.
We will be watching. Chris Wallace, Fox News Sunday. Thank you.
All right. He's also got Tim Ryan, who's challenging Nancy Pelosi for speakership on the Democrat side. So a lot of news on Fox News Sunday.
All righty, turning to your headlines on this Sunday morning. A suspect in custody after a series of attacks on Starbucks coffee shops.
Mercenary door closing.